Well, hello. You are listening to the Pieces of Grit podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Stewart, and this is episode 44. Today, it is just me. I don't know if that means that you're lucky or, I don't know. Anyway, it's just me. I'm really excited to be back in the studio. It's been a little while, and the solo casts are really fun to do. I love getting to talk to guests, but sometimes these are the opportunities that I have to share the things in my heart, the reasons why I do Pieces of Grit. This podcast is centered around all the things that create our identity, the passion, the perseverance that we have going after big goals, dreaming big dreams, allowing ourselves the freedom to actually do that, and then figuring out how to go after them. You might not get to the end of whatever that journey looks like for you tomorrow, but you can always take one step forward to get a little bit closer. So today we are talking about learning to be in the moment, and I'm recording this right before Thanksgiving, and so while I could say that this is pertinent to the holidays and we need to stop and think about it, it's really relevant to us at any time in our lives, at any point during the year. I'm constantly trying to work on that because just like you have family, you have relationships, you have work, you have side hustles, you have hobbies, things that you want to do. And so maybe I shouldn't say we, but I definitely tend to get focused on how to accomplish all the things. And so I forget to be in the moment. But what does that really mean? So I was reading some articles because I was researching this for myself, which is usually where most of these solo casts come from. And I was reading an article on mindfulness, and there was a quote that said, "Time is an illusion." I know that was a long pause when you don't know what I'm thinking, but when I stopped to really ponder that, the past doesn't, this is not my words, but this still comes from the article that I was reading. It said that the past doesn't exist and the future doesn't really exist. And I won't try to go into that and philosophize because I am not a philosopher. I'm not really good at thinking existentially. It's not part of my nature, but that is such a deep thought. So I'm going to say it again, write it down or look at the show notes. Time is an illusion. The past, it's gone. It doesn't exist. And the future, it hasn't happened yet. And I definitely don't get into these woo-woo kinds of things. Maybe that's your jam, but it definitely made me start thinking about how well I do live in the moment. So my husband, Brooks, he is frequently frustrated by the amount of plans that I make. I like being productive, and I'm so much better if I schedule a whole bunch of stuff. Like I'm just going to get more accomplished if I have it written down, have a plan, a calendar, a to-do list, than if I'm just trying to wing it. It really also helps reduce the amount of time that I spend thinking about it. If I just write it down, I kind of get out of my head, I get out of that abstract phase and get to the doing. But I do still spend a lot of time thinking about what's next, both short and long term. So that's one end of the spectrum. And some people would argue, and I think it's all relative, but some people would argue that I'm kind of extreme on that end of the spectrum. But on the other side, you have Brooks, my husband, and he is a reminiscer. I never understood this, and I didn't even know that people talked about memories and wanted to connect with friends on the quote, good old times so much. But he and his family, they love talking about the past. They look at old photos. And this is a phenomenon to me. I think it's amazing. I've gotten to learn so much about his history and past events of the family through this. But at the same time, it's the same time sucker that all of my planning or my worrying and dreaming about the future can do when you're living in the past and spending so much time bringing up these memories. It's really weird. So you have this tension of both ends. And how do you live right here in this moment? So there was this other psychologist that I was reading some of her stuff. And again, all of these things will be in the show notes. So you can go back and look at them if you want to. If you're in your your podcast app, whatever platform you're listening on, there's usually just a little button down there and you can click over to the show notes. But this psychologist said that depression lives in the past and anxiety lives in the future. Alternately, calmness and peace of mind live in the present. Well, I would love to be in a state of more frequent, more constant calmness and peace of mind. And if that's found in the present, then I really need to focus on not living in the past and not always thinking about the future. And I'm definitely preaching to myself. If Brooks could hear me saying this right now, he would probably be going, yeah, that's what I tell you like all the time, not to worry so much about the future. But I do see that we have so much mental illness going on in the world, including depression, anxiety, bipolar. There's combinations of that. There's others that I didn't mention. So this is a really incredible statement to ponder. And again, I'm gonna repeat myself, but depression lives in the past and anxiety lives in the future. So I would say that I deal more with anxiety, and Brooks probably deals more with depression of, thinking about things in the past. And I'm not going to analyze what he feels, but if you are in that camp, then you know what I'm talking about. You may have had moments like me when you're hanging out with a group, it's family, or you're even at work, it could be a meeting. All of a sudden, your mind is off in another world. You have lost the conversation. You've missed out on at least the last 3 or 4 sentences, and you have no idea. It's horrible. It can be embarrassing. And to me, that is one example of how I am always like thinking of something else. And I'm going, man, can you not just pay attention to the person or the people in front of you for 2 seconds? All right. So big picture. Maybe you're in the camp of being a reflector and you think about the past, and that might make you depressed. Or maybe you're like me and you worry more about the future. All of these unknowns, the variables, they're a heavy thing to carry around. So back to what I love to work on and things that are really important to me and this show, we need to keep our goals in front of us. And there's nothing wrong with either of these 2 camps that you fall into. We want to keep memories close to our hearts, and it's good to talk about those things. But then we also want to have dreams and do think about our future, and that's not bad either. But what if I could get my appreciation of people and satisfaction in life to increase by being more mindful? That word mindful, it's such a buzzword now. Everyone is talking about mindful eating, mindful practices. You want to condo your closet, throw away the things that don't bring you joy. It's all wrapped up in mindfulness. And there was another thing that I was reading that said existing anywhere other than the exact moment that you're in creates a false world around you. I know you guys are going like, man, she is like really out there with all of these quotes. And yes, it was a little far-fetched for me, but it really gave me a lot to think about. And I don't know about you, but I want to live in the real world. I don't want to create a false ideal around me. I want to experience what is here with me right now, today, and without the burden that I feel of striving for something that's a drain on my personal resources and that's taking those resources away from the people who are in my life right now. Honestly, I wish that I had a 3-point list of amazing hacks that would enlighten you and promise to offer greater contentment. And I don't. When I find that, I'm going to sell the heck out of that. But I'm hopeful that this little nugget of musing, just in these few minutes, and my goal was not to drag this out, but just to offer you a few thoughts for you to think about and apply them to your life and figure out how to challenge yourself to live at the moment today. Don't worry about what happened yesterday, and don't stress over the things ahead of you, which you honestly can't control anyway, and they shouldn't be yours to worry about. So take all of that with a grain of salt for what it's worth. I wish you a peaceful and contented existence today. You guys, that was a little crazy for me, but I really enjoyed reading what I read and being able to put together this little kind of a mini episode for you. One of the things that I always forget to tell myself and then to tell you is about sharing. When you guys share these episodes, whether it's just me or the wonderful guests that I get to bring on here, that helps the show. It helps me. It helps get the word out. If you find anything valuable in these episodes, it would mean so much to me if you would share this on your social media, or you can star me in iTunes or whatever platform you're listening on. Leave a little review. That's also amazing. We are getting close to the holidays, so if you want to give me a present, that is the best present you could give me. That is what I have today. I really hope, like I said, I'm recording this right before Thanksgiving. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. And with that, I will just say, dig deep and aim high.